I'd like to call to order the regular meeting on Monday, March 14th. It's now 6 p.m. Well, it's a little after 6:08. We're going to have a special meeting tonight immediately following this regular meeting. So this meeting is now called to order. And would you please join Councilmember Holman in the Pledge of Allegiance and stay standing for the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Lord, as we gather once again to plan and make decisions for our city, we ask for your wisdom. We also ask for the continued safety and healing for our fire, police, and the defenders of our country. Thank you for our citizens and visitors, thanks too for the safety of our citizens and visitors as they enjoy our community, blessed by your guidance. This we pray in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Sarah Lynn. Councilman Stipp will not be attending this evening, so I need a motion and a second to excuse him.
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion by Councilman Osborne, a second by Councilman Pizzillo. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. So now we have no communication items tonight, but now it's the time for citizens who would like to address the City Council on any non-agenda items. Are there any cards?
No, Mayor.
All right. Is there anybody in the audience that wanted to speak? All right. Then we're going to go on to the consent agenda. Would the city clerk please read consent agenda items 6.1 through 6.4 by title only?
Item 6.1, approved draft minutes from a regular meeting held on February 22nd, 2016, and a special meeting held on February 29th, 2016. Item 6.2, approve additional expenditures of $10,000 from the Public Art Fund for the Goodyear Branch Library Public Art Project. Item 6.3, approve the final plat for the Cove at Palm Valley North, subject to stipulations. Item 6.4, approve the map of dedication for a portion of West Sells Drive between North Saraville Avenue on the east and State Road 303 on the west within the PV 303 East Phase A final plat.
Thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to remove an item from this consent agenda? Does anyone in the council wish to remove an item from the consent agenda?
Yes, Mayor.
And which one is that? Do you have a question or do you want it totally removed?
Can I make a comment? Or nobody? I want to remove it.
Okay, so which one is that?
6.2.
All right, so let's then, I need a motion for 6.1, 6.3, and 6.4, and a second. Do I hear that?
So moved.
Second.
I heard from Vice Mayor a motion for 6.1, 6.3, and 6.4, and a second was from, I'm sorry, I didn't see who it was. Councilman Holman. All right, roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Holman?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
So we're having, you want a presentation on 6.2?
Could Nathan come forward?
We can.
I don't see Guyleen.
Yes, she's here.
Mayor, we do have Guyleen here.
All right.
So Guyleen, would you,
Well,
whichever.
both, please.
Well, now you've got the powerhouse with both.
All right. So thank you both very much. I know you already know that I was in opposition to the additional $10,000 for the shade structure. Not for the shade structure itself, but for the additional cost of $10,000 to make this project $75,000 for a seating area with a shade structure. And the more I thought about it, the more I was concerned. While we did approve this in 2014, the circumstances has changed, and what I don't want to see is a shade structure covered with pigeon poop. So I don't know how you're going to design whatever you're going to design, but you do know we do have a pigeon problem in front of that library, and especially in that corner. And if we're going to do a $75,000 art something, I want it to look nice. And you may have to use some of the money to do whatever you need to do to change the birds' locations.
Mayor, Councilmember Campbell, thank you for that comment. We are aware of the pigeon situation there. Facilities is actively working on the mitigation of the birds now. They have erected pigeon wire or bird wire to prevent that, and they're also doing some other measures. And so, yeah, our goal is your goal. Birds are difficult at times, and we'll continue to look for opportunities to mitigate the pigeons.
Well, thank you. When we approved this, we didn't have the pigeon problem because the signs hadn't been put up where they're nesting, and I do know they do have some things in place now that are not working at all. So that's all. I just and also in our CIP, every year we authorize $60,000 for art, and here we're doing $75,000 because of unusual circumstances. So I just would like us to keep within what we're projecting, if at all possible.
Although I'd like to just clarify, part of that is we're redoing the street. There's some sidewalk changes, right? Could you just tell some of the other changes so that it doesn't look like that's all we're doing?
Well, there really was two items to this improvement project. First was the site improvements. That was $65,000 that we discussed to be used by library impact fees. And that will have improvements to the parking area, access, pedestrian access, and removing some of the landscape with hardscape. And then the second portion, which is also was 55 and now 65. 65 and now 75 is for the sculptural seating element and the shade element there.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I just
Thank
don't
you
want
very much.
the public to think that
Right. No, I
we're
get
paying
it. Thank you.
$75,000 for nothing. The other thing, I do agree with that wire system. We have it on our house, and we had the pigeon problem too, and it works. So it's probably a little bit more difficult in the design that you're going to be using, but glad to hear that. So with that, thank you very much, both of you. I need a motion and a second for 6.2 to approve additional expenditures of $10,000 and from the Public Art Fund for Goodyear Branch Library Public Art Project. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Second.
I heard a motion from Councilman Campbell and a second from Vice Mayor Loretano. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Holman?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Loretano?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
Great. Let's go to the business. Now, just to remind you again, in the business, I'm going to give the same rule I had for the work session to remind you, for the council, to refrain from asking questions until the staff presentations are complete and there is a motion on the table. All right? So at 7.1, the first item is to consider approving a well impact waiver agreement for the use of a non-portable well in Cantamia. Planner 2, Alex Latinsky, hello Alex, will present.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Actually, items 7.1 and 7.2 I'd like to present together because if you read them through, you'd probably notice they're in conjunction. Item 7.2 is a request for a use permit by AV Homes. They are continuing development in Cantamia and recently received approval for Pod 4 of the final plat. With the final plat, Track 16E was created and designated use for a future well site. The well site is intended to pump water for use of filling lakes within Cantamia and for watering landscape in the common areas of the development. Use permits are required for public utilities and facilities. Although the proposed well will be private utility, staff required a use permit due to a similar nature of the request and allowed for further review and evaluation of a site as such within a residential area. The pump and motor used at the site will be placed several hundred feet below the ground, reducing any noise that may impact adjacent residents. The tract and equipment will be screened behind a 6-foot screen wall, so nothing will be visible. The enclosure will have its own parking space, similar to a driveway for maintenance purposes. that will further reduce impact on adjacent residents. Item 7.1 is the waiver agreement that is requested per stipulation number 1 of the use permit approval. The waiver has been agreed upon by the city and AV Homes and Cantamia in order for the city to give consent for Arizona Department of Water Resources to issue a well permit at the site. The agreement protects the city's rights for future well sites without any conflict. The planning and zoning staff does recommend approval of both the waiver and the use permit subject to the stipulations provided. The Planning and Zoning Commission did forward their recommendation of approval as well. A commissioner did ask the question, has anyone looked at the impact of the well drawing water in terms of the aquifer or other wells that are currently drawing water from the particular aquifer? And I'd like to pass the mic over to Mark Holmes to share his answer with you, as he did so eloquently at the commission meeting. And afterwards, he's going to discuss the agreement a little bit more.
Thank you.
Mayor and Council, thank you very much. Again, to answer that question, a recovery well is required to actually test the aquifer from a volume standpoint to make sure there's physically water available for what is intended to be recovered through that well. Their current intent is to recover about 20 acre-feet per year, which is a relatively small amount. The AV Homes and Cantamia Association has a requirement to fill their lakes with non-groundwater. They were initially granted to use groundwater for a 5-year lakes permit, and that was extended for another year, and they're currently had partnered with Newland for recovery of long-term storage credits. These would be reclaimed long-term storage credits that they would have to go out and purchase to then recover through their recovery well. AV Homes, again, drilled a test well to determine how much water was physically available. They have proven that there is enough water available underneath their property to recover the 20 acre-feet per year in perpetuity for filling the lakes. However, the City of Goodyear is a municipal water provider in the West Salt River Subbasin and the Rainbow Valley Subbasin. Any non-municipal landowner or entity upon lands within 100 feet of a municipal water provider's property must obtain consent for a recovery well. Therefore, we drafted the agreement for both protection for the city and for AV Homes to move forward with their project. The agreement is mutually beneficial in that it protects the city's interests in the sole water provider, in that the city would not be impacted by this well should it decide to drill a future service area recovery well in close proximity. At this time, we have not completed our well siting study, so in the future we may decide that a well site would be preferential for the city, so we're protecting the city's interests. At the same time, AV Homes and Cantamia Association can move forward with their recovery of long-term storage credits to fill their lake for their needs for the lakes and the golf course and their watering needs. So upon approval of this agreement, the city will issue a consent to the Arizona Department of Water Resources with the agreement as a contingent upon the agreement as the conditions for consent. Any questions at this time regarding the agreement? I'd have
Thank
to
you very
answer.
much. Thank you. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Would anybody in the audience like to speak? All right. Then could I please have a motion and a second to approve the well impact waiver agreement between the City of Goodyear, AV Homes, and Cantamia for the use of a non-portable well in Cantamia? Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Oh, second.
All right. I heard a motion from Councilman Osborne and a second from Vice Mayor Loretano. Open for council discussion. Councilman Loretano, Vice Mayor Loretano.
Mark, this is just probably to help educate me. Up in Estrella, they have the purple lines to water some of the landscaping. Is this that same reclaimed water that's in this well, or is this different?
This is slightly different. So you're seeing direct non-potable use of reclaimed water. So the purple pipe's indicating it's coming from the reclamation facility being directly delivered to the point of use for landscaping and so forth. That's the purple pipe. The well is actually just a single well that's going to be pumping groundwater, but that water will be converted legally through the purchase of long-term storage credits by Cantamia. They'll have to go on the market, actually buy a paper water right that has to be reclaimed long-term storage credits within the Phoenix Active Management Area. So go out and purchase those legal water rights, which then would convert groundwater to reclaimed water and be able to allow them to recover that reclaimed water in that system from that well and then additionally fill the lakes.
Would they ever be able to hook into the other reclaimed water system up there, or
They are already. They actually have tied into Rainbow Valley. Currently, and what their agreement is what their development is producing from a wastewater and effluent volume. Currently, it's about 1 million gallons per month, not a large quantity. Of course, that will continue to increase as development occurs. So how much pumping and how much that will kind of balance out as the development increases in time. But they are currently taking what they're producing from a wastewater being reclaimed and then delivered back to them for the lake filling. It's about 36 acre feet a year on top of the 20 that will be recovered from the well.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Councilman Osborne?
Mark. Thank you, Alex. Well, I really appreciate the Planning and Zoning Commissioner's question because I was going to ask for, help me understand how this is not also groundwater either, technically. And so I do appreciate you giving that information. I guess one last question I have just for information understanding. So it's their well. How does this all work out in the big picture when we're looking at water conservation and if we had drought scenarios, this is water going to a lake. So can you kind of describe how this would technically come under our active protection, or how will this work? Especially as we're also looking at a water conservation city team coming together to talk about this. So just help me out with the background on that.
Starting out first off, your question's valid. Thank you very much for it. You're kind of seeing that old kind of growth, how developments really were developing back in the day, build a golf course, build some lakes, and if you build it, they will come kind of methodology of growth, which has shifted through time. Paradigm shifted now is much different today. So we're seeing that remnant of lakes, golf courses as part of what has been developed there. The one thing that I can tell you that from a non-groundwater use, which is groundwater is non-renewable, it's reclaimed water. They're taking directly delivered reclaimed water from the plant, which is a renewable water supply. And I know this is complicated as part of the water law. While it looks like they're pumping groundwater, they're actually pumping reclaimed water, just from the standpoint of the legal allowances within the Phoenix Active Management Area. Now, should there be drought, or the city should come up with new ordinances or types of water conservation enhancements, that may very well, they may want to participate in some of those activities, looking at maybe reducing turf area and so forth, water intensity, landscaping, or other types of water intensive uses being reduced, definitely through incentives or through encouragement and volunteering. But they definitely have a growth plan and strategy, and they've approached it the right way according to the state's rules and laws from a reclaimed water side. I hope that answers your question. Thanks.
Any other questions? Yes, Councilman Campbell?
Mr. Holmes, did you say that they were not going to be drilling out of the aquifer?
They already have a test well. It was a hydro test well that was drilled to actually do a pump test to determine how much water was physically underneath their property. Mm-hmm. And then they're trying to lock up a volume that's physically available for what they'll be recovering on an annual basis in perpetuity, which is the 20 acre feet per year. Okay. So they actually drilled into the aquifer. They're actually, pumping groundwater molecules that will be later converted legally into reclaimed water molecules through that paper water right they'll have to obtain.
All right, and will someone be keeping track of the amount of water withdrawn out of the aquifer?
That's a great question. They're required to report all of the water recovered through the Arizona Department of Water Resources through their annual reports. They have to pay certain pumping recovery fees similar to the city. All pumpers will have to pay those. They'll be required to report those annual volumes. That's public information which we can obtain and monitor how much they're pumping. Okay. Again, I think as the development increases, I think their goal will be to try and use direct delivered reclaim and try and reduce how much water they're actually pumping based on how much their development is.
Well, a long time ago, the Rainbow Valley was a wonderful citrus growing area, and the farmers pumped the aquifer dry. And then we lost all of that wonderful citrus, and now the aquifer has filled back up, and we have farmers that are farming down there, wonderful crops. And I just want to, I know we're mindful of it, but California is in the trouble they're in because no one monitored the withdrawal of the aquifer. So as long as you know what they're doing, that's fine.
I think just to go one step further, at some point, we're going to have to import water, and that water supply will be probably CAP water. So if you think of a CAP water, a renewable supply being used there, and then the reclaimed water generated from that supply recharging the aquifer, part of the strategy of the Water Resource Division is to try and create sustainability in our aquifer management. So trying to put more water storage there and try and balance the aquifer. So you're right on with the question.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions? Well, I just want to compliment Arizona, because when someone mentions California, we've been planning water resources long before I was here, and they've done a great job. That doesn't mean that we have to be good guardians of our water, and we know that. So I appreciate, Mark, your department, and I trust that there will be these checks on that. And I also appreciate that we have to, there are agreements that we've made. It's an absolutely beautiful neighborhood. I want you to know we use Estrella and Cantamia as a showpiece. All right, so for the families that come to Goodyear, because we have a lot of young families coming in, it's a perfect area for them. So it's nice to try to retain that, but abide by the laws, the agreements, but yet save water, and it shows. I think it's a good story and how it's being used. So thank you very much. So council, all we need to do is vote for that. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. And now we're going to go into a public hearing to consider the request for a use permit to allow an irrigation well in Cantamia. Open public hearing. You've already given the presentation, so we're not going to ask Alex to do any more work up there, but just to stay there. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Would anybody in the audience like to speak? Okay, then I am going to close the public hearing, and could I please have a motion and a second to approve the use permit to allow irrigation well on Track 16E of Cantamia, Phase 2, Pod 4, subject to stipulations. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Second.
I heard a motion by Councilman Campbell and a second by Councilman Pizzillo. Open for discussion. Discussion? All right, well, let's go to it. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. So now we'll go down to 7.3, and it's to conduct a business. The next item of business is a public hearing to consider the request to rezone 3 acres located at the southwest of Yuma Road and Cotton Lane. So I'm going to open the public hearing. And Alex, you have that.
Once again, I have the next 2 items, and I'd like to combine the presentations as well, if that's okay with everyone. Avondale Moose Lodge opened for business in 1970 before the city's annexation of the property in 1983. When it was finally annexed, the property was zoned AU Agricultural Urban. As it currently stands zoned, the use of the lodge is legal non-conforming. The first item of business is to rezone the property to C1 neighborhood commercial. The property will soon be acquired by ADOT for the 303 expansion. A rezone to neighborhood commercial will be in line with the neighborhood land use category as designated by the general plan. The neighborhoods category calls for light commercial uses at arterial roadway intersections, as well as utilizing light commercial uses as buffers between residential uses and interstate freeways. Although the use of Avondale Moose Lodge will require a special use permit, the rezone to neighborhood commercial remains appropriate. The second request is to recommend approval of a special use permit for the private club and fraternal use of the property. In order for ADOT to move forward with the acquisition of the property, the existing infrastructure for Avondale Moose Lodge will need to be relocated further west on the site. The zoning ordinance requires legally non-conforming buildings to obtain proper zoning and conformance with the city code in order to make any substantial changes to the site. That being said, staff has evaluated the requests and recommended stipulations that will protect the adjacent residents and requires a consistent design with adjacent properties. Therefore, staff recommends approval of 7.3 and 7.4.
Thank you, Alex. Good job. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Would anybody in the audience like to speak? Okay. Then we're going to close the public hearing. Will the city clerk please read, please read ordinance 16-1328 by title only.
Adopt ordinance number 16-1328, rezoning 3 acres generally located southwest of Yuma Road and Cotton Lane from agricultural urban district to neighborhood commercial district, amending the zoning map of the city of Goodyear, providing for separability and providing for an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion from Vice Mayor Loretano and a second from Councilman Osborne. Open for discussion. Councilman Pizzillo.
Just clarification. It was kind of lost in part of the presentation. Trying to understand. There's already something on the property, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
As you can see right there's the existing Avondale Moose
So
Lodge.
I'm trying to figure out why we're rezoning it. Is there something that has to happen in order? I hear you mention something about ADOT and the 304. Is it not in conformance before they explain it and see if I can get it the second go around here?
Thank you, Councilmember. So the existing zoning of the property is AU, agricultural urban. That was what it was zoned when we annexed the property.
Okay.
ADOT will acquire the east half of the portion eventually,
Okay.
straight down there, right where the building is. In order to legally conform to the zoning ordinance and the zoning code, the property needs to match and conform to the zoning. So to move the site, it needs to be properly zoned.
So in other words, to move the building after ADOT, I assume the club's still going to be on the property?
Yes.
So in order to move the building, once ADOT goes through the building,
Yes.
we've got to get the zoning correct to the, what is that, west? Is it east or west of where they're at right now?
It'll move
so that
just
they can
west.
move the building and be in conformance with the zoning.
Yes.
Is that it in a nutshell?
Yes.
Bingo, I've got it. Thank you.
Okay, so I read it, and I'm just as confused as I was before. So they're currently, I drove by there today, so I know what, I've seen it, I've walked it. They want to move from where they are to the left.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to demolish the building that they have now. Whoops. Oh, that doesn't do any good, hon, I'm sorry. The other one's better. That's just, yeah, sorry. Okay. And in order for them to demolish the property and build a building, they have to have a use permit and a new zoning.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm assuming that they were there long before Goodyear annexed them, and that's why they're called Avondale in Goodyear.
Yes.
Okay. And is ADOT going to assist in any of the cost that they're having to incur?
That's a great question. ADOT does provide since they are acquiring part of the property, they compensate the property owner for utilizing and taking over part of their site.
Because they're kind of they're taking it over. Okay. And before ADOT can do that, we have to agree to change the zoning. And once that's done, we don't have to do anything else.
We would just go, they would go through a site plan review process, and staff would internally review the site plan. So
Right.
as long
and,
as the zoning's in order, we can then move the building.
all right. And then you keep saying move the building. Are they physically going to move the building, or are they going to rip it down and rebuild?
They're going to rip it down and rebuild.
Okay. All right. So then they will, when they build their building, they will come back through our city to conform with our design guidelines and permitting and whatever else we require. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thanks. All right. I got it.
Councilman Holman.
I have the residents that are right behind them aware that that building is going to be closer to their property?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember Homan. The public notice did go out to all the adjacent residents in Cotton Flower and all the adjacent property owners, and we've had no feedback from any of the residents.
But they have been notified?
They have been notified.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, could I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Pizzillo,
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell,
Aye.
Councilmember Homan,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Loretano,
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne,
Aye.
Mayor Lord,
Aye.
passes 6-0.
All right, we're going to go into another public hearing, and Alex has already given her presentation, so opening the public hearing. And are there any speaker cards? Would anybody in the audience like to speak? All right. I'm going to close, excuse me, everybody. I'm going to close the public hearing. And could I have a motion and a second to approve a special use permit to facilitate the development of a new Moose Lodge facility subject to stipulation?
So
Do
move.
I hear a motion?
So move.
Second.
I heard a motion by Councilman Campbell and a second by Councilman Holman. Up for council discussion. Any discussion?
I just have one question,
Councilman.
and I should have asked before. Would you put the map back up, please? I would like to know how they're going to go in and out of that property once they move it close to, and where the parking is going to be in relation to the homeowners behind them or on the side of them. Do you know?
Let me try this site plan again.
Oh, gosh, okay. Can you get a little closer to it? Perfect. Oh, well.
No.
Oh, my gosh. All right, somebody who knows something about it. Is somebody here that can talk to us about it? About the plan itself?
Thank you, Christian.
Oh, good, thank you.
Okay.
Here
So-
comes someone.
Oh,
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm Wayne Rockwood. I'm the architect on the project.
Please use the mic
Oh,
and
thank you.
start all over.
My name is Wayne Rockwood. I'm the architect on the project. And the parking, we tried to work it around as best we could. We had requirements for how close we could get the building to the property line on the west and the south. We've observed those. We had to use the rest of the space because what wasn't mentioned is that the middle of the site, the double hatch site, was being used by Maricopa County Flood Control District for that drainage pathway through there. So we can't build on that. So not only do we lose the part for ADOT, we lose building on top of the middle section. So we're restricted to where we are there. So, and the parking, we are allowed to park on the Maricopa County part as long as we don't build anything other than paving.
All right, so where are they going? Can you give me the street that they're going to enter and exit? And is there only one entrance and exit out of this
Currently,
area?
right now, there's no street into it. They're using the LA Fitness driveway.
Yes, I
but
noticed
we're proposing to come out next opposite of Pima Road down at the bottom. There's a traffic light there, I believe.
Did you say Pima?
Pima on the lower
Road?
right corner.
All right, and then, but the building is not going to be backed up against the houses.
No, the building is where it says Arizona, the Moose Lodge.
Can you point to it on the exhibit, please?
Yeah, that would help.
This is the building here,
Yes,
and the properties are here.
okay.
So-
So we do have a little buffer.
We have over 50 feet. I think it's 55 feet or something.
All right, and how many
Or six- I'm sorry,
parking
75.
spaces have you allocated?
We've, I have to look at it myself. We were over the minimum requirement. We're over the minimum requirement on the property that is theirs. We're using the extra spaces on the property that we're using from ADOT. So we exceed the minimum required for the zoning that we're in.
Well, how many?
May I pick this up?
Sure. I'm sorry, I can't read it either, and I've
You know,
got my
well,
glasses on. It's so tiny.
It is small, and I apologize that we don't have a bigger copy here. So zoning.
I'm just thinking of the traffic going in and out.
Staff help with this one?
You see that? Oh, you got the big one.
Let staff help you with this.
Thank you.
You would not be here without the proper parking spaces, so.
Oh, no, that's not the issue that they don't have enough. The issue is going to be if there is a lot of parking spaces and they're moving in and out, the neighborhood's going to notice that there's a lot of traffic because you're moving closer to them even though you do have a large buffer. They're not going to be used to having all of that around that building. And we just don't want the neighborhood to come in to us saying, we didn't do our due diligence.
I'm
And we
going
tried to
to
put the-
interject here and repeat if they sent out the notices to the neighbors and give that information to Councilman Campbell, okay? And if anybody came in protest of this. Can you do
No,
that?
we went to that meeting, the public hearing meeting, and there were 3 people that showed up. And
But the notices went out within the time frame they're supposed to go out. Okay.
Okay.
the answer to your question is there are 63 spaces required, and we have 122 spaces provided, I believe. Yes, proposed. That includes we have more than 63 on our site,
Okay.
but we have 122 total with the use of the easement for ADOT.
And do you rent out your lodge for private events to the public?
I do not believe they do.
Okay.
They do have events there, but they're in-house events,
That's fine. Okay.
charity events, yes.
That's just fine. Thank you
So,
very
again,
much.
just to clarify some of these questions, it was zoned for this, but this zoning is proper for what's going in.
The zoning is what we were asked to do, yes.
Yes, okay. And well, there was one other question I had. And it falls under what guideline? I'm sorry. But it is proper for this particular Moose Lodge facility to be put on this property
With the use permit.
within our guidelines with a use permit. Okay, thank you. Yes, Christopher.
Mayor, Council, if I can interject one point for you. The site plan that's shown here is at this point conceptual in nature. Should you all vote tonight to approve the rezoning actions and as they move forward, then the processes for them to get a building permit would be administrative. So if they wanted to move the building 15 feet or so, assuming it, and it would have to meet all of the other city requirements, staff would review the project against all city regulations, and if everything is met, we would administratively issue the building permit. I wanted just to bring that up for you so that we didn't focus particularly on the site plan as it is now, because there is an opportunity as the owners, as they design it further, that it may shift a little bit. But your staff won't issue any permits unless it meets all the city requirements.
Yeah, that does it fine. It's just, I'm a little gun shy when we approve these change of zoning and then activities occur at the location, even though no one came up and said they didn't object to it. Later down the road, just like they did at Buffalo Wild Wings, because we approved it, and it was, but then they had activities outside that disturbed the neighborhood. And that's why I was asking, are you going to rent it out to the public? And if so, it's fine with me. It's just that you need to be sure that everybody knows what our rules and regulations are for the noise and that sort of thing.
They've been doing the same thing that they will be doing for the last 40 years, and they do not have the complaints at this point. I realize they were getting closer, but they do a lot of charitable events for the neighborhood, children's Christmas funds. So nothing's going to change in terms of what they're doing, nor the size. The building is roughly 100 square feet bigger than the existing building. So they're not trying to expand. They're just trying to survive there because they love this site.
And y'all own the land there?
They will own their land. And they own 2/3 of the land, but Maricopa County has a easement on half of that.
So what you thought you had now, it's just squeezing down a little bit, and you're trying to make it work. Well, good luck.
They now can use this 33% freely as long as they stay within the city.
Okay.
So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Christopher, did you have something to say?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. You'll also notice in your staff report, Alex and staff worked hard to put some stipulations regarding noise and activities on this in order to protect the existing neighborhood. Furthermore, if the Moose Lodge at some point wants to have a special activity that's not governed by this, the city has their normal special event permit, which they would have to make an application for. So there are protections built in already within city codes and processes to protect the existing residents.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming forth and giving those answers. All right, we're going to vote on this.
Sherilyn has a question. I'm sorry.
Sherilyn, I'm
Mayor.
sorry, I didn't see that.
A question. Whoops. Around the perimeter, the circles, what are those?
Which, these circles?
Mm-hmm.
Those are trees. and
That's what
bushes.
I thought. So they're
Landscape.
also they're not already there, or they are?
They're not already there.
So they're adding that, which will be,
They're
that's
adding-
great. Okay, that's what I thought they were.
Yeah. I just wanted to give a
Osborne.
comment. I think that for a facility that's been there as long as it has, I guarantee the moose. I don't want to say mooses. The moose group and the neighborhood will actually be very happy because it'll be a new building. It will be like you said, landscaping. I think that it's a positive impact that's going to occur here. Thank you.
Okay, we ready to vote? Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much, Alex. Thank you. Let's go to 7.5, and it's our last item, to consider approving the construction contract for the Corget Wastewater Reclamation Facility Aeration Basin Dome Replacement and Odor Control Improvements. Senior Project Manager Regis Reed will present. Oh,
Well, Regis isn't here.
sorry about that. Would you please, for the public that's listening, say your names?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Todd Carpenter. I'm the wastewater superintendent, and Walt Kinsler is the project manager. Tonight we're here to present to you the aeration basin dome replacement and odor control improvements construction contract with construction services to be provided by Hunter Contracting. Here's an overview of the Corget Water Reclamation Facility that was constructed originally in 1988. It went through a couple of expansion projects prior to the city taking ownership in 2006. More recently, we have installed new disc filters to replace the old, aging, antiquated sand filters, and we've replaced 2 digester lid covers as well within the facility. In red, you can see the location of the actual dome structure as well as the odor scrubbers unit. To the right, you can see the Corget wash running right along the facility, and then right across the wash are the nearest residents. And I only point that out because of that proximity of those residents. The county does require that the aeration basin process, the meat of the treatment process, be covered as well as odor scrubbed. Here's an overview of the city, and just to point out in red, just to more localize the location of the Corget Water Reclamation Facility within the Australia Mountain Ranch development. The facility is currently rated to treat 0.8 million gallons a day. We do treat the A+ quality effluent, which we now currently discharge to the Corget wash. Here's a more close-up view of the actual dome and the odor scrubber unit that are both set to be rehabbed and replaced. And this picture is taken from within the facility, and then it's kind of good to note you can actually see the rooftops of those residents across the wash. So what does it actually look like inside the dome? Inside the dome, there's actually 2 aeration basins, which, like I said, are the bulk of the treatment process on the outside. Both of those funnel to a central circular clarifier. And on top of that clarifier, there's a metal catwalk which allows access from both the north and south into the dome, as well to the center ring of that clarifier. Both operations and maintenance staff need to get into that dome on a daily basis to perform routine tasks. The picture in the middle is a localized representation of the corrosion that's actually taken place of that metal structure. It's very unnerving, actually, to step on that. Haven't done that in well over a year. And the picture on the far right is actually a picture of corrosion that is taking place on the electrical components inside that dome. That's a junction box, but the electrical outlets also are showing that type of corrosion. Through a series of routine safety inspections and through support through risk management, there are numerous structural, electrical, ventilation, and OSHA deficiencies located within the dome, as well as with the dome itself, that through management support, this project has been developed. With that, I'm going to pass it on to Walt to finish the rest of the presentation.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Just the enter. You can see the dome. I call it the bundt cake. Will be removed. We'll replace that with a metal flat roof with exterior truss that will act as a catwalk. The advantage of the flat metal roof is it does make the facility an unoccupied facility. So staff will be able to do their inspections visually and, if needed, physically through a series of roof penetrations that will be provided. Also, by reducing the dome, or eliminating the dome, the air exchange is reduced from 12 times per hour to 6 times per hour, and the volume of that air exchange is reduced from 27,500 cubic feet per minute down to 7,400 cubic feet per minute. The existing odor control scrubber will be replaced with new pumps and instrumentation. It will then be brought up to a capacity to exchange air that will safely meet the requirements of the flat roof, as well as the existing control panel and pumps will, the control panel will be new. We'll use the controller will be new, the existing panel will remain, and we'll have new instrumentation as well as new liquid crystal displays. The project was approved in FY216 CIP budget for $1,036,100. Procurement did publicly advertise for solicitation of the project through their IFB, Information for Bids, process, which is a design, build, delivery method. We received 6 bids. Hunter Contracting Company was the lowest responsive bidder at $1,267,678. This request would include a budget transfer of $350,000 from the Wastewater Enterprise Operating Line Oversizing Account, which would increase our budget to $1,386,100. That also includes a 9% owner's contingency that would be held by the city. Staff recommendations twofold. We'd like to authorize the city manager to approve the budget transfer of $355,000 from the Wastewater Enterprise Operating Funds to the Basin Dome replacement project at Corrugate. And we'd also like to approve the construction contract with Hunter Contracting Company for the aeration basin dome replacement and odor control improvements to the City of Goodyear Corrugate Water Reclamation Facility in the amount of $1,267,678.
Thank you very much. There may be some questions later. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Would anybody in the audience like to speak? All right, then, could I have a motion and a second to approve the $1,267,677.65 construction contract with Hunter Contracting Company for the Corrugate Wastewater Reclamation Facility aeration basement dome replacement and odor control improvements, the $350,000 budget transfer to the project, and authorize the purchase order to be issued. Do I hear a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion by Vice Mayor Loretano and a second by Councilman Osborne. Open for council discussion. Councilman Pizzillo.
Well, what I want to get to is the $350,000 budget transfer. Assuming I'm doing my math correctly, if I subtract the $350,000 from the $1,267,000, it's roughly $900 and some thousand. The additional $350,000 is about a third of that cost. So I guess my question is, what made up and what's causing that $350,000 to be transferred? How did the numbers get off that much, I guess is my question.
Mayor, council member, Pizzillo,
Is it on? Did it turn off? If it's a red light, it's off. We'll get you one. Here.
It's flickering.
No, he's.
Don't touch it.
I see it flashing green and red.
Green.
How about now?
That's beautiful.
All right,
Thank you.
perfect. Certainly a question that we asked ourselves. There's been quite a bit of changes in the construction world in the last 3 or 4 years. As you see, that this project was funded in 2016, which means that the concept for this project came together over a year or so before that. At that time, we were still seeing some lower costs in projects, especially in the low bid market. Also, the design process helped our design team refine the need. Perhaps some of the issues that were not captured at the beginning when the original concept of the project was put together. So essentially that and the market really showing some higher prices and bids are the two main factors that influence the change in price.
Is my math correct, though? It's about a 33% roughly above what the original project probably was calling for?
I think the original project was just over $1 million. And the bid came up about $200,000 above that. We are requesting $350,000 instead, which gives us a 9% contingency. And the reality of it is this project going in the proximity of the homes, the age of the facility, going in with no contingency at this point would be probably not prudent. And we believe that 9% contingency is probably a good move.
No, I agree. Yeah, you do want a contingency built in there. I was just kind of struck me the percentage of the estimate as far as the additional amount. So
yeah, the actual cost is probably about 20% higher.
And what was the date again? The original?
The original price?
The original costing, 2006?
2016 is when it was approved. So
actually, it was in 2015, 2016 budget.
Okay.
So it was approved by the council last almost a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then the planning that led up to that, the estimates were done probably about over a year ago. Is a point we're trying to make.
no, I appreciate that. 20% seems high to me, but I'm not in the industry, so I'll go with what you have to say there. But again, that's the first thing that kind of jumped out at me when I saw that number compared to the 12. So thank you.
yeah, thank you. It is a changing market. Thanks.
Vice Mayor?
Oh, don't go anywhere yet. I don't know who this question's for. What is once you do these repairs and these upgrades, what is the lifespan before this has to be done again? Because that corrosion looks pretty severe. So what is the lifespan once we do this before it would have to be done again?
This type of structural impact is really a consequence of several things. What happened here in the plant was that there was some failures of the odor control system, which failed to remove the gases that cause corrosion. So certainly we're not going to see this again in the near term. Typically you would see a 20-plus year lifespan in this type of facility.
How old is the dome that was on there now? How old is that one?
1988. 80.
Okay, so it's outlived its usefulness.
Yeah. Oh, no question.
And when you were talking about the air exchange, just so I understand this, because I live just a couple streets over from this, does that mean that will decrease the odor that people who live right on by those houses would normally maybe be smelling, or what does that mean, that air exchange?
I think the point that Walt was trying to make is the volume of the dome is getting smaller, so the air exchangers needed are less.
So does that affect any odor outside the plant?
With new equipment, the odor will certainly be reduced. The efficiency of the equipment that we're installing and the impact that it's going to have on the neighborhood is going to be certainly a lot better than what we have now.
Have you smelled it?
No, I've never smelled it. I hear it late at night. I smell the cows down in Rainbow Valley more.
That's good. It takes the pressure off.
I mean, if you smell some, it's the cows. But I was just wondering, in that area, and it'll have a lower profile as well. Okay.
Well, I just remember the incident we had with another water company right off of close to the city hall, and the smell. And so I'm just going to say, I know your odor control is going to be good. It's going to be much less than what we've had to deal with before. So improvements look like they were needed. So I think we're all happy. So thank you. We're going to vote on this. So all discussion is done. So all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Now, I'm going to do a little different before we go into this special meeting, because we've all been away out of town. And so, first of all, does council have any comments, commendation, reports, and current events you'd like to talk about tonight? Councilman Osborne.
Well, I would just like to mention this last week because you know what? For the last few years that we've attended the NLC events, you know, we've gone there, learning best practices on things, bringing back innovative ideas, you know, and that's all been wonderful. Being part of a voice for the National League of Cities all over, you know, our nation. But this time, I felt really proud of what occurred, and you know, I'm very thankful to Rob Bohr for setting up some meetings that we had, because I really think that we brought Goodyear's voice to our senators and to some of our congressmen and saying, you know, this is what our city is needing and in this region. And so that was a little different than we've done the last few years. And I'm very thankful that we had that opportunity. And I think that we had some people listening. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. And Sherilyn?
I just wanted to comment on my way to the meeting this evening. There was a very sad procession going down Litchfield Road, and I was on the east side of Litchfield Road. So that's why I was so close to the mark. But a police officer that was who was working in Hayden, Arizona, but continued to live in Goodyear, was killed in an auto crash on his way to work. We all got that. But it was very moving, and it just brought to mind again, and I pray to God. My sentence was very emotional to me tonight about asking the Lord to protect our first responders, and particularly our police officers who really care about their communities. So I just wanted to comment on that.
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Anybody else? Jerry, go ahead. I'm just about ready to cough.
Wanted to let the city manager and everyone know that on the 22nd, March 22nd, Estrella Mountain Elementary School is going to go through another rating period to be labeled an A+ school. So as I find out more information, I will let you know what's going on. But I thought that was very good that we've made it to, I guess, this level. They're going to do a site visit. So don't have all the details, but I just kind of wanted to let you know since it's next week.
Good. Anybody else? Well, I just want to mention, yes, go ahead.
I am going to write a report to the city manager on my involvement with NLC, because I was in on a lot of things that I didn't know I was going to be in. I was very privileged to be in some conversations. And I'll be meeting with police and fire to share with them some things that I have been told about that we might be able to apply for grants.
And you're going to do that with the city manager?
Yeah, I'm going to do that with the city manager. And then the mayor and I had the privilege to attend the ribbon cutting for Congressman Grijalva, and it was very nice to see so many of our friends there. We were able to meet with his staff when we were back in D.C., and it was just most appropriate that we were there at his new office in Avondale.
Well, it just shows that we're nonpartisan on this council.
That's right.
And so we reach out to both the Democratic side and the Republican, and if they're independent, because we're looking to improve our city. And so we take the politics out of it. So you're right, that was very good. Anybody else? Well, we just got to say, opening day was great.
Oh, it was
okay,
wonderful.
we were gone. You know, we left right after that. So
yeah.
I just want to compliment that it was just great. And I also want to compliment staff that went with us to Washington. It takes a lot to get us where we need to go, and they did a great job. So anything, city manager?
No, Mayor.
Okay, then just to let you know, the next meeting will be a work session on March 21st, 2016. So I'm going to adjourn this meeting, and we're going into a special meeting. This meeting is now adjourned.